Good morning all. It's Friday the 22nd of August. Welcome to Friday Focus. During the summer break, we're doing some recorded versions, as you've heard already. We've got some episodes that are going out as record, so we won't have live interaction this morning. But if you do want to leave a comment on the subject that we're dealing with, then please do so, and we'll get back to you either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, where we're broadcasting this episode. You know that we're on LinkedIn. Probably you've seen my profile there, and you'll be engaging with us at that in some way on YouTube. We're also building on Substack and Spotify, so if you do want to engage with us there, please do so. Then my newsletter that goes out every week is on both of those channels, and you can engage with the conversations that are going on now. Today's episode is different from some of the others. It's in the sense that this is, you've heard me say about the episodes, join the conversation. And I'm really interested in engaging with people that want to talk about issues that are very live with us every day within the education world. And today, Katy Potts reached out to me on when we did the episode on early years, and wanted to focus on safeguarding, digital safeguarding within the new framework that had been published around the time that we were talking about early years. And I invited her to come and talk to me. So welcome, Katy. Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for being here this morning.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much. Yeah, so my name's Katy Potts. I've worked at Islington Council since 2000, so quite a long time now. I'm a teacher, first and foremost. I was a primary school teacher, and then I was a maths consultant, a numeracy maths consultant. I was very enthusiastic when the internet was introduced and whiteboards, and one of the first teachers to use it. And so from maths, the council asked, would I help coordinate technology in schools? And I said, well, I'm a maths primary school teacher, and they said, oh, don't worry, you can work with you seem to love working with schools, why don't you work with the schools and create a service? And so for the last 25 years, I've developed a partnership with all of the schools in Islington, and other schools in North London have joined us, where we lead on technology and teaching. Since 2013, the role, I developed a traded service around computing, just because there was the new focus, and digital literacy is a key strand of that. And because a piece of work that I have led on since around 2005 is online safety. So while tech for good is my passion, for the last 20 years, head teachers were, because I was enthusiastic about technology, they'd be saying, oh, hang on a minute, we've also had this issue coming through on instant messenger. Was the first one I think I ever had in 2003 or 5. Working around online safety, and I sit on national safeguarding boards. I've worked with the Safer Internet Centre. I'm an advisor for Common Sense Media. I'm on their advisory board. I work with London Grid for Learning on their safeguarding board, but also importantly on their education board as well. I'm a Bett Judge. I've been a Bett Judge for 20 plus years, and I've also led a really exciting, at the heart of all the work that we do in our schools and our services is pupil voice and family voices as well. And so we've developed, Islington Council, I think for going into our 10th year, have an event called Kids Judge Bett at the Bett Show, and it's very authentic, where children go around the show and they choose the tech that they think is going to be most impactful back in the classroom or at home. So that's me. I have been at the council for a long time, but it's developed. My role has developed.
Okay, but that's a testament to your commitment to the education service, and clearly value. I mean, nobody builds that kind of network within the education world without credibility. So well done.
Thank you.
If nothing else, you come out with this. Somebody.
Actually, Chris, the reason why we're here, and an important piece of work, and why I reached out to you, is for about the last 10 years, the loudest voices in technology and safeguarding training sessions in North London schools have been the early years practitioners, have been saying, hang on a minute, You've got these cases about cyberbullying in Key Stage 2 and grooming cases, etc. But we're not weaning children off dummies anymore. We've got we've had disturbed behaviour in nursery schools because we've dug deeper, and we're seeing excessive use of unregulated content like YouTube, etc. And so a piece of work that I've developed with national practitioners has been about calling for digital standards for early years, because unlike primary and secondary, where there are statutory guidance and policy for online safety, that's not the case in the early years. And so for the last year, I've led with lots of fantastic people a group calling for digital standards and statutory requirements in early years around technology, not just around safeguarding, but also what good looks like.
I mean, that's so important, and that's so we all talk as educators about sharing good practice and seeing what good is, and seeing how good can be transferred. That's kind of, well, that's the essence of what we should be about if we want to see standards raised. So the early years framework was published, and there's very little digital reference in it at all.
Yeah, that's correct. It was released, I think, on the 14th of July. And yes, there's no requirement under policy or safeguarding. There's a link, I think, on page 23, which was in the previous iteration of the framework, which there's a link to, you may find useful. And it's safeguarding children, protecting professionals in early years settings, online safety, but it's just considerations. And that was written, it was published in 2019, and it was written before that. I know colleagues who wrote that, and they said it was written in several years before that. So it's very, very dated. But what's key there is that you may find this requirement. It's just a link, and it's not statutory.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, there are the great and the good that sitting down writing these policy frameworks. They're not taken lightly. They are done, but the concentration is not on the things that we are now seeing as important. So one would question over time whether these people are in touch with what really is going on the ground. I mean, we all know that young children, very young children, are very screen savvy now. They've got access to all sorts of things. What is it that's stopping the policymakers from being aware of this change?
I'm bewildered, to be frank. I don't understand this void. The action group, the Digital Standards for Early Years Action Group, wrote to the Minister for Early Years this time last year, actually, and we did manage to convene a meeting with the safeguarding team. And we presented all of the data around Ofcom report that 49% of children are using live streaming platforms. YouTube has a live streaming a tab on it. 87% are using YouTube on a regular basis. 17% are using TikTok. A large percentage have mobile phones and iPads. I think a fifth of early years children, I can't remember which Ofcom report, I think it was the earlier one, 2024 had percentages of mobile phones, and that was really high, a fifth. 2/3 have iPads. And often they're, in advice, the current advice that's available from platforms like Internet Matters, they have videos of how to support your child, and the child's with their iPad in a bedroom, unsupervised. So the kind of advice to families, it has images of your child in the bedroom on their own, So it's a very, very concerning picture, really. We took this evidence to the early years safeguarding lead in the DFE, and they said that the framework was already, this was at Christmas, and they said the framework that has just been published was already, had already been through Parliament, and there was this non-statutory link. We also raised the fact that in early years settings, there's a hodgepodge of practice. So in early year settings, you'll find some practitioners who are enthusiastically using YouTube for songs, rhymes and games on a daily basis. And then other practitioners who are so concerned about the use of YouTube at home that they'll actually say we don't use any technology at all. The other admission in the framework is the fact that there's no requirement to teach technology. Pre-2021, there was a requirement to teach in the part of education and the world around us. There was a piece around technology pre-2021 that was removed in 21. So there's actually no requirement to teach technology to children either.
And I believe that's been moved from the measures now. So they actually, of the 7, the 5 that prove, that you're at level, the 2 others include that environmental understanding of the world is not included anymore.
No, that's not included either. And we talked to them about that. So not only is there a void in teaching children about online safety and teaching parents how to set settings and what are good boundaries in the home in terms of bedtime and books at bedtime, and what good looks like in terms of CBBC. There is great content out there. Watching it with your child, being with your child, talking to them about what they're watching, activities that you might do that links to the CBBC. So apart from the fact that that's a huge piece of education for families is missing, then also the support for practitioners in terms of how you might use it in the setting, how to educate children about technology in the real world, but how you might also use it within your teaching. You might be using YouTube. How might you be using that? Do you need the big screen on? Not really. If you've really got to use it for a song, and that should be questions, in my opinion, in a lot of early years practitioners' opinions and practitioners like me who've got a lot of experience in technology. For early years, I would be really questioning if you're using it for a song. Why are you using it for a song? Really, in terms of pedagogy, the adult leading the song in early years, leading the rhyme or leading the story is key, really. But you might be using it for Michael Rosen because his content, the way he leads videos are exemplary. He's so animated and such an expert in delivering stories and rhymes.
But that's actually, Katy, that's quite that I've not heard somebody make that point before. That's really interesting, that to use, it's like any teaching tool, but to use it, I mean, to heighten the listening capacity of children rather than just all of it being consumed through visuals. That's quite a significant. That's something for teachers to consider. Why would you put it on the screen? Why does it need to?
Why? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you really need the song to support you with you are hearing now practitioners saying, I don't feel confident to sing anymore. And this is this is why the digital standards for early years is so vital, because in terms of pedagogy, there's great research called Fiona Aubrey-Smith, who's led frameworks about impact, and the use of technology, it's the role of the adult, and the use of technology, and that's absolutely paramount in early years. Because, and also for songs and rhymes, what are the tools in the early years adults bag, and the songs and rhymes are in that bag for the adult to lead. That's always been the case, and in the home as well. We know that songs and rhymes and stories are key to the delivery of learning. Really, and should big tech. There is all of this debate about AI in education in secondary schools. It's like, hang on a minute, let's talk about early years, because big tech is taking over sometimes in some classrooms taking over.
There's 2 bits I want to get to, Katy, and that's the conversation about good research, because there is a body. I'd love to talk about that through, but there's also the long journey. and the emphasis in the journey. Let's do the research part first, because you were talking to that. Just tell us, you're going to give us a summary of some of the good research that's out there, international research, not just UK.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. So, well, in terms of starting in the UK, some excellent research from Manchester University about toddlers tech and talk. That Rosie Flewitt. So do have a look at that, because it's a piece of research with quite a small cohort of families, but really importantly looks at technology in the home and around the early years child, because it is ubiquitous to the world around us. Like if I had a toddler in the room now, they'd be crawling on my lap saying, what are you doing? What are you doing there? So
absolutely, my granddaughter would be at the screen.
Absolutely. The adults around them are all using technology, and there's technology in the home. There's washing machines and electric toothbrushes and such like. So Rosie had led a great piece of 3-year research, I think it was. So have a look at that, and just around how it stimulates talk in the home, and it stimulates language, and that's really, really key. But the families in that piece of research volunteered, so that's really important to recognise. The second piece of research I'm really interested in that's new is from Sam Wass at East London University, and this is how fast is too fast. And actually, he is looking at, the normalisation of, we've talked about Ofcom, and the fact that a very large proportion of early years children, 87%, have said that the early years children are using YouTube and TikTok. We know that what is normal on those platforms is short reel, fast-paced content, and AI fast-paced now. So AI generated. It is the norm, which is a real concern. Content that actually no human has ever looked at. Just someone has dumped in content. There's even reports of extremist content reaching early years children. That is being framed with kind of friendly cartoon early years characters. So
if it's not curated, that's going to be so obvious. And it's just going to land, isn't it? On Facebook and X and these.
Absolutely. So Sam Wass is doing a piece of research. It's absolutely fundamental. And there's another expert in the field called Jacqueline Harding, who is an advisor to CBBC. And she's absolutely key, because she talks about so Sam's talking about actually what is the impact of short reel, etc. He's also done work around distraction and noise in early years, which is really important in the classroom. He's worked with practitioners in the classroom, so that's really important, because you do see practitioners using tidy up songs from YouTube. Do we need tidy up songs on the whiteboard? Then Jacqueline Harding has got some really good research around what does good content look like for early years, that it encourages co-viewing and is proactive, not passive, that it's rich in positive cultural diversity, diverse imagery, that it doesn't cause sensory overload, that it's slow paced, that the characters are meaningful. So, all of this, what is good, is key from Jacqueline Harding, and also from Fiona Aubrey-Smith, who has done a piece of work around EdTech and PedTech, but she's working with myself and early years teachers around what good looks like. So there in the UK are some research publications that you can look like. Manchester University, East London University, Fiona Aubrey-Smith and Jacqueline Harding. Globally, Finland, always Finland, has done some excellent research. I haven't got that to hand. I apologise, because I just read that in just this week I read about Finland. But Australia...
Finland is a much bigger, because they've taken it seriously and produced a strategy that covers all the schools.
The schools, and I think they start from early years. Australia have got a birth to 5. It's called Digital Society. Let me... it's called Young... Let me just bring it... Young... should have this open. Young Children Digital Society. And that is a funded statutory framework. I think it was developed 5 years ago. I've met the lead researcher there. Really exciting. And we importantly shared this research. And I work with the early years professional bodies the Early Years Alliance and other bodies. We presented this research to a recent parliamentary review in the UK around digital media, and a review of digital media, and that was published this week, last Friday on the 15th of the 22nd of July. It was published. So have a look at that, and they recommended early years. So from the so that's very new off the press. They did recommend that early years was a phase to be included, which is absolutely brilliant. So there's some research. There's some research for you. Yeah.
So the journey, the concentration, and we've talked this through briefly, that so much of the emphasis is on later, that we need to see the shift. We know that. Someone, an education leader once said to me, if we're constantly intervening, then we need to go back and look at what we're not doing that's causing the intervention. 100%. So clearly there needs to be a shift. Now, there are schools that are doing brilliant things. So I suppose the question is, how do people shout about the good stuff? Because as we've already said, sharing good practice is the essence of improvement. It's it's working where you are. It doesn't necessarily transfer in every case. Actually, Katy, I'm just wondering about, you're working with a local authority that's working with all of its schools. The emphasis in the wider nation is that there's a lot of MATs that are providing that service that you would as an LA. Do you see any opportunities for sharing great practice? I mean, obviously you're doing that where you are.
100%. I mean, we've in Islington, we've worked with London Good for Learning, so it provides internet to the vast majority of schools in London and actually beyond. And they've got a great safeguarding and education advisory groups. And we, Islington, have worked with them to develop free, and it's available, policy templates that are available. So we work with early years, we work with early years advisors in Islington. We work with the head teachers of early years settings and curriculum and safeguarding leads. And we work with charities like Common Sense Media. And we have developed free policies for early years around developing online safety and technology impact policies. How are you using technology, reviewing why you're using it, communicating that to families, communicating that to staff, and then translating it into policy. So that's available on LGFL. If you just Google early years LGFL, you'll find that. We have taken that a step further in Islington. We've developed with our parent groups. I think this is really, really key. We do roundtables with parent groups in our schools and our early year settings. So I've developed, with 60, one Steiner school, I developed, not a Steiner school, it's a Montessori school. And I had 60 parents one evening in January, and we had a brilliant evening where I said, right, come on, let's do a roadmap from birth to 16. What does tech look like? And the parents had post-it notes. They were, because I said, look, it's all very well. We've got phone bans in secondary schools, but Ofcom say we've got a fifth of preschool children with smartphones, and we know that about 2/3 of early years children have their own iPad. So actually, really should we really be saying ban phones in secondary schools when we've got this? We've already got mobile devices in bedrooms. We see that in advice to families of early years. Come on, let's start from birth. What would it look like? So we've got a roadmap that I can share with you, and you can share after this. I don't think I've got it on a because with the roadmap, we use the widgets, so it's very visual. It's got very low. It hasn't got much text on it. But that's really key. That's really key, and that's available. And important is, what does good tech look like? As well, I've talked a lot about BBC, but it's wonderful BBC for early years. Busy Things, we love Busy Things in London because we get that free via London Grid for Learning. Common Sense Media we really love because it's got brilliant advice for families about what good tech looks like, and then it's got a free digital media framework, and it starts from the early years too. And importantly, in the framework and the roadmap, we talk about good habits in the home. So what good habits look like. Books at bedtime, meal times, traveling on the bus. As children get older, I talk about atomic habits with parents, because that's a great book called Atomic Habits, but stacking your habits, things. I've got teenagers who I will actually, if you don't mind, I've got to go and shout at one teenager who needs to go to his running club in 10 minutes, but around,
Yes.
and he hasn't walked out the door. So I'm actually going to walk to my door and shout, get to your club. But, atomic habits, building exercise, healthy food, the tools that you can use on devices, so screen time, we use screen time. We've got teenagers in our house. I've got screen time on my phone. It cuts out after two hours. We've talked to them about algorithms and around, actually, do you really want to have that app? This, it will hook you in. So they're like, okay, fine, 15 minutes then, so they kind of understand the reasoning behind it, and they don't have TikTok at all. That is what we've decided in our house. Okay, you can have YouTube, but you get 15 minutes. Even your running app has got addictive tools. It's shared. Your friends are sharing their running track. You've got to be all over everything that they're doing. Chris, on that note, think about your next question. I'm going to go shout at a teenager. Won't be a minute.
I'm going to do the. So if you're here, no, this is the practicality of doing live broadcast. But now, if you're with us and you're interested in the conversation, like, share and subscribe so other people get involved in the conversation. Please do join in and follow the material either on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Substack. The conversations are growing. People are engaged. We've been going for 12, 14 months now. So a regular broadcast every 2 weeks. That we will be reviewing that in the new year to see if there's enough content to do more, but we are interested in the conversation. So I will say, while Katy is just doing the very practical thing, if you want to raise a point or you want to get involved in the conversation, just reach out to me on YouTube, and my team will engage with you, and we'll grow the possibility of a conversation. Now let's get back to the conversation with Katy.
I hope did you mute me there? I hope you did, because you heard me.
You will go mute. It's fine. No, nobody heard your conversation.
I was following at my teenager to get to tennis. We've got brilliant free access to sport in Islington, and he's able to play tennis, I think, for £3 a day, which is fantastic. I give a shout out to Islington Council for organising that, and it's at Finsbury Park, and it's that's part of our atomic habits. It's building, it's reading every day, even with teenagers. It's hard because screens in the holidays.
Just on that's because you referred very briefly to the habit of banning electronic devices. Now we know that a lot of that is about distraction and notifications.
Yeah.
But I've been a strong and always have done. I've always struggled with phone banning, particularly when I was working with a set of school leaders, and when I said to them, do you realise there's £250,000 worth of technology in the safe that you keep? Because are we insured? Are we actually insured to? Because if one of those the batteries blows, we've got a problem. Now, banning phones, I understand it. It's distracting, and I'm not in schools now, so I don't have to deal with that on a daily basis with the cyberbullying and all the rest of it. But the reality is, as Katy, as exactly as you're saying, if we taught good habits and set parameters and stuck to them, then, if we started early, we would all, because we're using technology now. You're probably watching and listening to this on a mobile phone, more than likely.
Yeah, absolutely key. And it's, the education aspect in the home, it's empowering. It's very important to work with families so they feel confident around what good tech looks like, the tools that they can use for restrictions, kind of very but authoritative parenting around being confident about, no, you're not having that app till that age. I certainly in our region, parents are definitely more confident than they were 10 or 15 years ago. A large cohort. My children go to school, in a local secondary school in Islington, and I'm on WhatsApp groups with the parents, and there's, you know, in years 7 and 8 and 9, there was a large group of parents on the WhatsApp and saying, right, who, you know, we're saying no to Snapchat, who else is, you know, this is the whole of year 7, and it's literally like 40 people, you know, and when you're in a WhatsApp group of 200, the majority actually don't often say anything. So to have 40 people is a good indicator. That is a very good indication.
But people do not, that I find with LinkedIn, they don't necessarily respond.
No.
They are taking it in, because you can see the difference between the impressions and the responses. So the fact that it's being talked about is key.
Absolutely. So it's built. So it's a going, you know, going back to kind of the you know, let's talk more about, you know, there's a lot of media focus around, you know, phone bans in year 6 and year 7 and 8, you know, upper primary. But we've talked about, you know, it's too late. And, you know, we need to build, you know, education from the early years, what good looks like. You know, why giving a mobile phone to an early years child, we know that's happening, isn't a good thing. But what good technology looks like, and the key around education and around algorithms, you know, talking to children from a really young age around, you know, why YouTube you're not going to watch YouTube. You know, my children didn't have YouTube in early years or primary, and we're still down on it in secondary school, you know, age, you know, because it's algorithm driven, it's on autoplay, it's unregulated, there's a lot of extreme content that is on there. So educating families to feel empowered to talk to their children about that. So YouTube isn't the daily content, you know. I mean, but that sounds, you know, even talking like that, you know, so many families are, you know, big tech YouTube is in the homes. It's on the TV screens even, you know, it's not even if we go from the mobile phone, you know, actually televisions have YouTube as the key app that's streaming as well in the living room. So talking to families around the fact it's unregulated is you know, is important. There's AI content on YouTube, you know, we must be talking about that. It's absolutely key. You know, it's not being curated for children, you know, as CBeebies has, as BBC Bite Size has, etc. There's so much good content for, you know, horrible histories as we go up, you know, and, you know, and the other content on CBBC is superb. You know, and
we had one of the guys that developed the CBeebies and BBC Bite Size was our inclusion specialist that came and spoke some time ago. So he, you know, I would actually shout out for that. And just Jonathan, you know, really appreciate that his input on the inclusion side.
Jacqueline Harding is the advisor who's working with Islington. We're developing from the roadmap for families, which we can share. Oh, I meant to say the roadmap. People are welcome to use it, but please, it has to be done in consultation with your school communities. So you can't take this roadmap and then just use it. You have to have a consultation with all your parents over a term and bring them in and share it in newsletters, etc. But we're also doing a piece of work with Jacqueline Harding and Fiona Rodby-Smith about a day in the life of an early year child and what is good. And Fiona's had this great idea about what is not so good. So not so good, NSG. So we've got an NSG, you know, giving examples around what is not so good, which is brilliant. Sorry, so we've got 5 minutes left because I've got to go and galvanise my teenagers more.
Absolutely. And just the last question, and it really, so in your role within the authority, because we've talked about a lot of this, we've talked about policymakers, the fact that their lack of concentration. So much of what we're saying, if we model on the Finnish idea, the 0 to 5, that's at government level where they're speaking to society and they're saying this is important.
Yeah.
What we need to be clear is that this is not an overemphasis and another burden on teachers. This needs to be systemic. This needs to be a bigger picture.
Yeah, health messaging, really.
What you're thinking, right? And it kind of it speaks to what you've just said about that bigger consultation. Don't just take the guides, and because otherwise it becomes an onerous school activity again. But this is a societal change. This is something that needs to impact. What do you think needs to be, or what's the most exciting thing about the future of this in terms of what you've seen and where it needs to go?
Yeah, no, I completely concur with that. You know, it's around. I'm very hopeful with this parliamentary review on digital media, which is important, an important piece of activity, and we've also got the new national curriculum review. But there's been links there already to digital media, but it has to be wider than the school. It has to be health campaigns, you know, is something that we are hoping for. So a little bit like the Green Cross, Code. But what is good? And if you look at the Australia framework, the young, I keep forgetting the name of it, the Young Digital.
You said Young Children Digital Society, you call it?
Yeah, they have they've got great campaigns from that around, you know, families being involved, you know, curating the content for the children. What does good look like? Books at bedtime. So, yeah, we really hope that there's national campaigns, you know, part of a digital media campaign, part of the new Online Safety Act, and Ofcom, who have talked, you know, Ofcom have a role here, you know, in terms of messaging to, you know, national campaigns around digital media and messaging around the online harms as well, and age appropriate age regulation. So yeah, really hopeful that they can all come together. The online harms bill, the review of the digital media that's just been published, the parliamentary review. We've got the new curriculum review that is only school focused, but you know, I hope that they all come together for a society-wide, really, reset on what does good look like for early years. You know, much more confident society-wise around, you know, good content. You know, reinforcing books at bedtime, reinforcing, you know, watching the role of the adult in early years is key. You know, watching good technology on the larger screen. Toddlers not having mobile phones in their bedrooms on their own, on YouTube. So fingers crossed, all of these in 2025 and 2026, all of these, if it's not in the early years statutory framework, which is disappointing, these other mechanisms come together for some kind of activity.
Katy, I'm very appreciative of a shorter conversation, but you know, we've gone into a lot of the depth, and you've given us such resource. We'll try and make sure that links to those research papers are shared in the show notes so that people can see that. But thank you so much.
I prepared notes, and actually we've covered everything. I think you were great at curating this, because we've brought together all of the global research on early years, and then there's a lot of really great stuff in the UK.
Well, we'll share it with people so that they can
share that, and the parliamentary review. And there are resources already. London Grid for Learning, Common Sense Media. There are Internet Matters does have some good tools, but they have got a video where the early years child's in a bedroom, which is on with our device, it's front and centre with early years. You know, it's the role of the adult and the involvement of the adult, and the talk, and the support, even the facilitation of learning. So that's. But Common Sense Media has some excellent resources. But well, thank you so much, Chris, and have a great start. This is we're airing this at the end of August, so everyone, I hope you have a great start to the term in September. And you know, if you are training in the inset days in early years, then do look at the LGFL policy resources that are there, because they're ready to go. And I think if your practitioners could have a quick scoot at those, they're very easy to use and to consider.
And embedding them in learning is going to be reaping results.
Absolutely. How are practitioners using YouTube? Are you using YouTube? Thinking about policy around that. Are you educating families around online safety, the resources that are available, etc.? LGFL on their early years page has got links to all of the available resources for early years and families. It's excellent. They've curated it actually for us.
Yeah. So Katy Potts left us with lots of resources, and thank you for listening and being part of this conversation. We've got a few minutes in terms of our normal length. I just want to remind you of a few things. If you haven't so far read my work on the efficient school, please get yourself an e-copy. It's an ebook, and it covers not just the cost cutting. Actually, I used an expression the other day, which was, don't design to survive, which is when a lot of schools are. All of the indications that we have at the moment is that the school budgeting systems are looking as if everyone is not investing in the future, not investing in anything, because it's just kind of base level everything. So don't think about that. Don't just design to survive, design to thrive. And that's the essence of what we've just been talking about. How are we going to encourage the young people of the future to thrive using technology and using resources if we are not going to consider the wider, the bigger pictures that are available to us? So if you haven't got a copy so far, please do go use the QR code on the screen, get yourself a copy of The Efficient School, and think about the bigger picture. This is about purpose, not about compliance. This is about understanding, not about doing what everybody else is doing because that's done. There are so many school leaders that I talk to that say, look, we've got these figures, we don't know what to do with them. And this is where we step in smart curriculum around building understanding. So on the back of the conversation that we've just had around how are we going to change the level of investment in schools from very intervention focused to a purpose driven start point focus, how do we do that if we do not start to think about how we put schools together? Now, we know role is changing. We know the birth rate is falling and schools are going to get, as it appears, tighter and tighter in terms of money and resource. So we need to be thinking again. And this is where the efficient school steps in. Yes, it's got the metrics in it. Yes, but it tells you how to use them and apply them. And that gives you the kind of bigger picture results. So if you haven't got it already, please do get a copy. Then if you haven't heard so far, search for the Smart Curriculum Network, the Friday Focus podcast on Spotify. We have actually added Substack as well to that now. So we are expanding over the next year, and we're looking at how this will grow. So thank you for being with us for the last year. We've got some exciting guests coming up in the new academic year. We're going to be talking with international partners. We're going to be talking to industry learning specialists on not just the classroom, but learning in terms of the bigger staff body. And we're going to be looking at issues as they come up through the year. So please do join us, do share, get other people involved in the conversation. Certainly on LinkedIn, I'm hearing more and more people saying, can I connect and can I share the stuff? Of course you can. Just share the link. The more people that get a chance to get involved, the better. As I said to someone the other day, the more the merrier. So if you would like to get involved in the conversation, we'd love you to suggest some topics. If there's something that you want us to look at, please do suggest. If you'd like to come and talk and have a conversation with me or with others that are working with us, please do so. Volunteer if you're interested. Get your case study out there, get the work that you're doing talked about. That would also be very, very valuable. So thanks for being here. Please do come and join us at some point, and we will see you in the new year.